Hey, my
Oh,
friend.
I'm doing good.
Maybe we should start the show by telling everybody. There's some people who realize it already. I'll read. You want me to read some comments and then
Sure,
give you a
sure, sure,
second?
sure.
And Isaac says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Glad to have you back, Danny." Dan Smith, hello, Captain Danny, Phil, and all of you fine fishing folks. Wind is way down, so let's get out and catch some fish. Have a great night. Absolutely. 540 Slinger, that is Jeff Yeomans. Good evening, Phil and Danny. Jeff, all my best to you. And Isaac says, action, and action, ready to go. Dan Smith says, hit that like button. Folks, for Phil says, I got to break something. Don't make me come up there. And Jeff Yeomans, and I guess this will open the door to what this show is all about. He says, my deepest condolences, Danny, and mine also, my friend. You've
Oh,
lost your
Phil.
father this week. I'm
You
so
know,
sorry.
Thank you guys. And I tell you, dealing with it, we were very close. But I was blessed to have a dad that recognized that fishing was a thing for me that changed my life. At a young age, he used it to dangle grades in front of me. And in trips. Michael, you recognize that? It works. Let me tell you. And but it kept me out of trouble. And I was able to pursue my lifetime passion. And I was also blessed to have grandparents that fished every single Saturday. So there you go, right? And
It sounds a little like when I was about to go to law school. I had graduated. My mom, when I told her finally I had dropped out of law school, and I think I wanted to go fishing. I mean, they want to strangle you at the very beginning.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then my mom said to me, and this sounds like your dad. She said, "Well, I don't want you to do something you don't want to do." Sounds like
You
your
know what,
dad.
Phil? Absolutely, because you know something, and this corresponds to almost anything you do, folks. If you're doing something that you're passionate about, it's not work. It's pleasure, and to delve in it deeper and to innovate and to conceptualize different things, get your mind thinking, and that's where it drove me. Is that I didn't settle. I could look back in all the tackle, even when I first started bass fishing in high school, we were making our own spinner baits, out of wire and making the bends. We were utilizing ball bearing swivels, which most of the guys, not even the major spinnerbait companies even implemented. They use regular swivels. So we would tweak them and make everything better. And I think that's the nature of most of it. And I was blessed that, with my dad was a senior designer at Hughes Aircraft. So he had a lot of technical knowledge, and maybe a lot of that came off of him too. I was blessed being around him because he would say, "Why don't you try this or try that?" And I would say, "Yeah, sure, I'll try it." Or have different materials and things that would you could implement to make things better. And you know, it's one of those old stories. As you get older, your dad gets smarter. Well, no, it's not true. He was always smart. You were just dumb when you're younger. You don't listen. You know, so save yourself some trouble. But I was so blessed. And later on, when he retired, That's when he bought into H&M Landing. So I mean, we were already involved with the boats and everything. But it was a blessing having him around all the time. He was always very supportive. You know, so
More
we got a
more
bunch of stories.
condolences from your
Yeah,
fans
thank
are
you,
rolling
folks.
in from
Hey, we love
Montana.
you guys.
Patrick and Sarah Harnjacks send their
Thank you so
thoughts and
much.
prayers to you. Cue Ball says prayers for Danny. Isaac says, so sorry, Danny. Condolences to you and your family. A very special show tonight. Let's hear some great stories about your dad and share your memories with us. Dan Smith, oh, Danny, rest in peace, Mr. Kadota. We love you, Danny. He must have been very, very proud. Wow, you have so many fans, and they're such
Yeah,
good
no,
people.
you guys are going to get me here. But, I was blessed, very blessed. And blessed that my dad, he, not just with us too. I mean, he was a scoutmaster. He coached baseball and basketball. He was very involved with this, you know. But at the same time, I was able to implement some of his innovations. He was a senior designer at Hughes Aircraft. He did a lot of military type things. But I mean, I even got to utilize some of the things that were out of our military. I think I did this on a show many years ago. many episodes ago, Phil, I think we were talking about the scanning sonars.
Yes.
But when we first put those first CRT units in the wellhouse,
Yes.
because of the glare, there was too much. You couldn't see the targets from different angles. And I said, "Hey, Pop, is there anything you could do, to take that glare so I could see it from different angles in the wellhouse?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll take care of that." So the next day it comes back and there's this polarized screen that's curved. So I put it over the CRT, and my God, from every angle in the wellhouse, from both sides, both windows, I could see the targets. I went, "Holy smokes, that is awesome!" So I go home. I say, "Hey, Pop, that's awesome." He says, "Where'd you get it?" He says, "I took it off an F-14." So they, when there's glare at 35,000 feet or so, it's pretty intense. But he designed cockpit designs and stuff like that. He was into the aerospace and a lot of stuff for the military type work. But to implement that in our fishing here in Southern California. So, and that's why I always maintain that our technology, it always went that route with our guys here because we're based here in Southern California. You got Hollywood, you got JPL, you got all the aerospace companies, and our fishermen, a lot of them are derived from those industries. Disneyland, right? We are used in Southern California to state of the art stuff. Okay, I could sit there on a weekend and I'll watch a bass fishing show, and I'm watching these guys, and now they're using the scanning sonar. I go, wow, that's pretty cool. Well, think about that. This is what, 2024? We were using that in 1984. So, there's a little bit of edge to the skies in Southern California. So when you had the Sansom brothers and Ray Montera and Taka Tanaka and all the skippers that fished here in Southern California and had utilization of electronics like that, there's no wonder why we stayed so far ahead with our technology and our methodology. It wasn't luck. It has nothing to do with luck. It's your due diligence. Being around guys like Russ Eisner who developed Spectra, took a lot of heat. Graphite rods, the reels, Newell reels. Everything was generated here, folks. Think about that, So we got to credit our people here. And I was blessed to have a dad that was on that cutting edge with everything, So he was very supportive. Once he actually figured out that I was going to use my college degree to go run a boat, he got over it, and later on got involved, with H&M.
Did you fish too a lot?
Not really. He kind of.
He didn't fish
My
much.
dad didn't fish a whole lot. He loved trout fishing, loved going up in the Sierras and trout fishing and stuff. And he took me ocean fishing enough, to keep me happy. But of course, he divided his time with all the kids, like with Dave and Steve. He noticed Steve wasn't as competitive as Dave and I were very competitive in like baseball and football, and basketball. We played real hard where Steve wasn't. So he put Steve into golf, and then Steve ended up golfing for UC San Diego. So he kind of analyzed each one of us, took our traits. Of course, my sister, was my mom's, that was her project. but with my brothers, he did that. He put his time every day. He'd come off work. He'd wearing a coat and tie, and he'd sit there and when I was pitching at a young age, little league, he'd sit there and catch with me for a half an hour before we went in to go have dinner. So, he invested a lot of time in us. And you look at the time invested from your parents and stuff, and it was, it's priceless, absolutely priceless.
Danny,
Yeah.
you talked to me, and I think if you're okay with sharing this with the audience out there, you talked about your dad's final hours, and it's like a miracle.
Phil, and we'll show some of the pictures. I can show you some of the pictures. But the other morning, my sister called and says, "Hey, you better get out here." So we kind of collected my brothers and sisters, and we shot out to Orange County. They're in La Palma. And when I got there, he had tubes in his robe. He was getting oxygen. He was kind of out of it. He got up. We kind of, Steve and I took him to the bathroom. He was utilizing a walker, and put him back in his bed. And he laid down and he just sat there, and he was, hardly any movement. He was breathing. You could see the oxygen going in and out. We laid him down, and we were just really getting prepared. You know, and
He was looking. It looked like he
yeah, he
was.
looked like
Yeah,
it's time,
time.
right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, as all the family started coming together, my brothers, my sister, Steve and Nancy were obviously there, but all the grandkids, everybody was showing up, driving up from San Diego, from Carlsbad, from all over to give Grandpa his last rites, you know. So we're out, close the door to his room downstairs there, and we're all out in the dining room, kitchen area and stuff, and we're all eating. They brought all kinds of food was coming in the whole time, all day. And you know, a few hours later, he comes walking out. No tubes. He must have ripped them all out. He's walking without a walker. He's walking fine. Comes over, starts picking some food, starts eating. And I go, holy smokes. I mean, this is unbelievable. You couldn't ask for any more than that. He played with the grandkids, the great grandkids. We took pictures, and you would have thought these pictures came from a couple years ago or something, because he was up walking around by himself and walking around and picking food off the table here and trying this, because there's so much around, obviously, and you know, it was just miraculous. So it's a divine intervention deal. And so he had a phenomenal day and a full day with the family, which was just unbelievable. So as much time as he invested all these years with all of us, and even our I would say our community, because he was a scoutmaster, cub master. He coached basketball and baseball for all of us. He was very selfless. All the time he invested was in people in the community and us kids, and we had a whole network of fathers and parents that were like that too. So we were very blessed growing up in that area. And so he was just having a great day.
What the heck? And that
And he,
came from. It looked like he was ready to leave you, and just
that
out
was
of
an
the blue.
intervention out of the blue to perk up, not use a cane, not use anything, walking around on his own, no tubes, breathing on his own. And after we all left, he looked great, but he went to sleep. And then it was about 4 or 5 in the morning when my brother went in and found him, and he was peacefully taking his final nap. you know. So then we all came back out again. But we were very blessed, and you know, he was very humble. He didn't want any fancy services, anything. He says, I don't even want a service, you know. And we're blessed that we have so many friends and family and people that would want to. They would drop everything for him. But he didn't want to. Typical pop. He didn't want to inconvenience anybody, and that was his way, you know. But that's the way he'll never change. It's not about him. Yeah.
Steve sends his condolences along to you. Thank you, Steve. And Isaac says, wow, what a way to come and spend time with the family for the final time, right?
You know what? It was a divine intervention. I mean, to see him perk up, it was like could have been 5 years ago, and to be given that moment where he was himself, like he was many many years ago. How does that happen? It's got to come from above. You
Absolutely.
know.
Your dad was a war veteran. Why don't you tell us a little bit? He was
Oh
in the
yeah,
Korean
he
War?
was in the Korean War. His
Yep.
older brothers went to Europe. There were several in the 442nd.
In World War II.
One was in the military intelligence service. He actually went to decode Japanese in the Pacific, which was a highly dangerous unit, But that was, their units are the ones that intercepted messages like was a Yamamoto being in a transport plane, and we sent up a flight of fighters to blow them out of the sky. And so that was a dangerous deal. But the older brothers went, and brother-in-laws went, and fought in World War II.
And before you go any further,
Yeah,
just so everybody out there understands what we're talking about, not only are they, and we thank everybody all the time for their service, but these
absolutely.
guys, I'm guessing, are coming out of
They volunteered.
internment camps.
They
The
volunteered.
American government, in one of the
Yeah,
a blight on our government, a horrible part of our history, but it is what it is. Took Japanese Americans and put them in concentration camps. Let's call them what they
yeah,
were.
it was.
You
Yeah.
lost your home, you lost your business, you lost everything. And these very same guys, like your father, go and then fight for that very same country. That's an amazing thing.
You know, it's about forgiveness and stuff too, Phil. You have to let it go. I mean, that's what they always said, you know. But you know, to me, I've always been leery of some of the things we do as government. I mean, I love my country. They love their country, but I wanna know how it's possible to orchestrate on the night of December 7th without cell phones or anything, how they were able to pick up every head landowner, farmer of Japanese American descent from San Diego to Seattle, Washington, the night of December 7th. Could we do that today with computers? So explain that one to me and I'll be happy. But I doubt that we won't be able to do that. But, you know, it was a land grab, but it was no different from, think about it. Everybody went through it. The Indians lost the entire country. California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas. That was all Mexico, folks. You know. So I mean, I love our country, but there's things that we've done that we can literally be a little ashamed of, you know. But we all went through that, and it's a matter of not harboring the resentment, forgiving, and letting it go. And that's, you know, that's the way they took it to carry on with. Because I think if you hold that and you let it eat you up, it'll kill yourself.
It'll kill you.
You
It
know,
makes
so
you a
it's
worse person.
It's the forgiveness part that's you know, was brought up. You know,
So your father, what did he do in the Korean War? What was
he was in the Air Force. He was one of the very first. I think he was.
that? Was a brutal
He
war,
made,
by the way.
there was one Japanese American guy that was a tail gunner in World War II that went to Europe, and it wasn't the Air Force; it was the Army Air Corps at that time. But my dad's in a book with another friend, and they were, you know, first in the Air Force. You know, so that was always a little pride deal. But they were coming out of a hot zone, getting trout troops out of a hot area, and as they were taking off, they were 50 feet up and got hit in the starboard engine, and the plane went down. He was flight engineer, so he was able to, you know, being a mechanic all his life and doing farm equipment, and everything else, rebuild cars. You know, he first thing he did was he dropped, you know, was able to get down, put the landing gear down, and then shut the fuel valves off. You know, so it went fireball. You know, but he spent a whole year in hospitals. You know, actual mass unit in Korea. You know, and then they transferred him to Japan, which for him was kind of a neat deal. It was the first time he was able to see Japan. You know, because the family left in 1892 for religious freedoms. You know, and then let's see, the one thing he complained about was all the transfers that he went through from Tokyo to Honolulu, Tripler Hospital, and from Tripler Hospital to Pasadena here was all done via boat. So he got very seasick and he
Oh, poor
hated
guy.
that part of it. So I know that even when he used to take me fishing as a little kid, he sucked it up just to take me fishing a lot of times. But that's how he was, you know. And he knew that I love fishing more than getting in trouble. And that was a fact. You know, I had that, I would constantly do that, but he always held that over it, and then he would escalate my grades and my performance at school for fishing trips. Little did he know, you know, after I got into UCSD and graduated from UCSD that I was going into work as a deckhand to start, you know. But I was blessed being under like Taka Tanaka and a nucleus of some of the greatest, you know, captains ever. So, you know, it's all been a blessing, folks.
Yellowtail 69, Wasabi, my uncle 442, my dad Korean War. I understand what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And Jabobo Tubbs says, I'm so sorry for your recent loss. Isaac says, God bless him. Thank you for your service from one veteran to another. Isaac, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We have
Thank you.
Michael Limon is here. He
Oh,
wants to ask
yeah.
you a question. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
Mike, sure.
All right, get close to me here on my microphone and go ahead.
Danny Kadota, what was the name of the book that your dad was in? It seems pretty interesting.
I think it was the veterans of. I'll have to come back with that. I was just looking at it, but it was the veterans from. It had to do with the veterans that were in the 442nd in World War II, but also the Korean War veterans.
Maybe you could tell everybody what the 442 was.
Well, that was there was an old Japanese American unit, and they were the most decorated unit in U.S. history. For the size and number of the units. But um, my one uncle Gunn out of Salt Lake City, he passed away many years ago, but he went through the whole campaign from Anzio, the beach landing where they dropped, hit the landing craft, and MG-42s opened up on a bunch of them. He went from there all the way to his last mission was very ironic, and it was one of the reasons why we were never asked. We were told never ask your uncle about what happened in World War II. Was his unit was sent on patrol toward the end of the war to go research this one place. Turned out to be Dachau concentration camp. So if you can imagine, and it's crushing that you got parents and siblings and all your relatives behind barbed wire and machine gun nests here in the U.S. Okay, in the 10 camps that they had here in the United States, and you pull up to a camp that the Germans had just left the machine gun nest. Barbed wire was still up there, but there was a lot of death, a lot of people, just skin and bones, walking skeletons. It messed them up so bad that as a child, and Phil, you could probably remember when we were young, oh man, I loved war movies.
Yeah.
But my dad would always walk by and say, turn that off or change it, do something,
Yeah, because
But
it's the nature of of boys to
Right.
like that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, we wanted to play army.
But if you've been through it and you know the horrors of war,
Yeah,
it's totally
so
different.
it was totally different. And as time went, we went through the Vietnam period, and I had a number, and had my number been called, I would have joined, and I had a college deferment too. And, we had friends go, hey, man, Kadota, we can go up to Canada if we get called. I says, yeah, we can go up to Canada. My dad and my uncles would come up and get me, and I'd take a worse beating than I would in Vietnam. So guess what? I would go. And fortunately, the war ended shortly after. But yeah, no, and that's true too.
I believe it.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, no, it's a tribute to all the people, not just But yeah, I knew my dad, but he was a very selfless guy.
You never had any in-depth conversations about the Korean War with him? He didn't want to talk about
He
it,
would
or
talk a little bit about it, but
yeah,
he would always reflect, And I found out he's in a book. He's in a book, and I found that by accident. He never showed any, never did anything as far as boasting about anything. I just happened to be going through the stack of books, and I look at it and said, Japanese American veterans of World War II and the Korean War, and I'm fiddling through, and there's a whole chapter on them, and I'm going, great. I said, Pop, it'd be nice, if you told us, and he was typical. That's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal to us. But that's just how he was. Just like now, he doesn't want a service, so I'm honoring that. We're going to honor that. I'm sure.
is there a part of you that wants to do the service, but you have to honor his wishes?
I'm going to honor his wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course there is.
Yeah, right?
He'd come home from work, Phil, and he'd play catch with us, and and when I was pitching, practice, but it was true for everything. But he also had the foresight for my academics. And Michael, you probably have gone through this too. Is you know what? They dangled those grades, and they said, you know what? If you do well, you get to go fishing with Grandpa on the weekends. So I'd get a weekly report. Because back in the old days, there was times when I sit in the corners. They take you, and I would get in a little trouble. And along with getting my behind swatted, I'd sit in the corner at school. But when the word got home, yeah, I would get taken care of. And so finally, he said, channeled it in a very positive way. He said, if you can get the grades and stay out of trouble, you can go fishing with Grandpa and Grandma on Saturday. So my grandparents, my mom's parents, fished every single Saturday. And that's where I learned at a very young age about intel, because I would go with my grandpa. He would go to the tackle shops, find out what and where. I mean, if there was bluefin and redondo, or if, a big thing for them was they ate fish every week. And so their favorite fish to eat was a pompano. you know.
Really?
So we would fill buckets of pompano, and I wanted, bonita could be biting. I wanted to fish the big game bonita on the pier. But until we filled that bucket of pompano, I didn't go
Are they
get the
good
bait
eating, by
tickets.
the way?
Oh, they're excellent.
Are they?
I wish I had it now, but I didn't eat it then because to me it was too bony.
I don't
But
think
they
I've
would.
seen a pompano caught.
It's been years, but
Right?
we used to get them in Cabrillo,
Oh yeah,
Pier Point, all the way down the coast.
I remember.
We'd go down
You
to
get them in the
Oceanside.
bait a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was one of the things, and it could explain what my grandma went till she was 97, so she ate fish every day. So there's a good thing for you,
There
folks.
you go. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So that helped you to, I mean, you weren't getting good grades because all of a sudden you were a great student. You wanted to go fishing, and you knew the way to go fishing was to get good grades.
That's what
Kind of like
drove
this
it.
kid sitting next to me.
That's right, Michael. Keep that in mind. You know.
And whatever it takes, I say,
Oh.
to motivate. Your dad was a very smart guy. He knew what you wanted.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, when I graduated from UCSC, I had two job offers that were very lucrative. And I lived in Del Mar, so I'm looking unobstructed view of the ocean Pacific every day for 4 years. And I'm looking out the ocean and I'm saying, hey, God, which one of these jobs am I going to pick? These business proposals I got. I'm looking at the ocean and he goes, none of them. You're going fishing. So I went back to Orange County, to La Palma, and my dad said, so which one did you pick? I said, neither. He said, so what are you planning on doing? I said, I'm going to go work as a deckhand on a boat. And he fell off the chair laughing until he realized, you're serious, huh? I said, yeah, I'm serious. But then I was blessed again. First guy I worked for was Taka Tanaka, just got the Mustang, and, to be tuteled under one of the greatest skippers, too, of all, he was not only just, the technician and great fisherman, but he was just, any of you guys that have gone out to Taka knows that he and Katie, they're the best. So it became another family that we were around. But in that industry, we got to know everybody really well, and we all became very close. I lived in Gardena while I was working down here at 22nd Street in Port Sacal, and we used to hang out at Yo's, and there was Arts Tackle, there was Jerry's. You guys, all the Redondo guys, are down over at Jerry's and Reds, and we all had our little hangouts. But through that collaboration of all of the Southern California shops, and I had later on, Mickey's would charter me out in East LA, and Mickey would also handle the tackle shop for H&M Landing. So I had a bunch of my East LA guys, and they were also another group of phenomenal fishermen. You Corky, Yokois, Denny's. I mean, the list goes on and on, but they were all just super people. And we were just blessed to be around all these great people. But they also made me look good as a captain because you put them on fish, and where a lot of boats may go 50-50 on your hookup to landing ratio, these guys were probably in the 90% class.
Wow.
And they all had the best tackle. They all had tricked out gear. They had the first nools, everything. And it's because of that mindset, and it never stopped. And a lot of these guys that later on we'd go bass fishing were like Corky Yokoi. Not only did he have the yellowfin record for years and years, if it wasn't for Corky Yokoi, I would have had my 1904 because he took his son Kyle. And Kyle, Kyle from Daiwa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he and Kyle went out, and Kyle was on a winter break. He was I think he was still in high school. And they started hooking some fish on the crawdads in December. And that's why I made my January 8th trip, which was what, 2 days ago? 2 days ago? What's today?
Today is Thursday, the 11th.
11th.
I think.
Okay, so
yeah, the 11th.
On January 8th, in 1989, thanks to Corky Yokoi, Taka and I were the only two bass boats on the lake. There were 4 boats total, and it was snowing. I-5 was closed. This is part of doing homework, folks. You find out that these bigger fish are pressure sensitive too. So for you bass guys, keep that in your head, okay? There's only 2 bass boats on the lake, Taka and myself. And I had Taka's son with me, Marty, who was my second license, one of my seconds on the Mustang. And Taka had a friend named Calvin Camara with me. And he just recently passed away from what I heard too. And they were fishing, we called it Taka's Rock back at Elizabeth. And that particular spot, the current comes in there and splits on that point. And in my estimation, this is something, all you bass guys, listen to this one. This is pretty important, okay? Keep that in mind. I'm going to give you something right now. At Castaic, when the current is coming into Elizabeth there and it splits on the corner there, you know, you got current going two ways, okay? At Lake Casitas, there's a spot called Chismahoo. And back there, the Sansom brothers and a lot of us would fish there. Don would fish inside. Danny would fish another spot. But we fished the spot that split the current like that too. And I was with Corky Okoy one day when I believe that was the biggest fish I ever had. I unbuttoned that when it came up to the surface and rolled over. And I kept thinking, do I kick it in free spool? Do I just keep constant tension on it? And I ended up pulling the hook. And that one was up there.
Wow.
That was a biggie too. But the thing that was common in that is that it's where the current came into a particular spot and split the current. Okay. Now, we were being blessed being sport boat operators because we understood that. But 99% of the tournament fishermen, they had no idea, because when you're on the trolling mode and the winds affect you, wind's blowing you around, the current's moving, you have no constant to tell you which way the current's going. So it's just fan casting around the spot. You're not fishing the spot with respect to the current with your baits. So there's a lot of things that we implemented from the ocean that we brought over to the lakes that changed it, that we were well ahead of most of the field nationwide and worldwide for that matter, And we had familiarity with electronics that a lot of guys didn't have at the time, And so, I look at these guys now, and I look at the tournament guys that are fishing. I'll look at it in a week, and I could only watch it for so long. I'm watching these guys high stick. I'm watching these guys, they're utilizing the scanning. There's a scanning sonar that they're implementing now. But again, you're making casts. They don't make a current determination anyway, but the current's going to determine which way they're stratified, right? Because they're basically going to be head into the current. So there's different things that we implemented and that we figured out that help. No guarantee, folks, fishermen. I'd love to tell you it's guaranteed. It's not, but it helps your odds. So it's all these things that we were able to learn, through and being around all these guys that were, innovative. We had the mind, and we shared information. There was a few guys, and I'm not going to mention their names, but it was a one-way deal. All they wanted was information. They never wanted to share it. Well, guess what? After a while, that gets very old. And we dealt with that. We could deal with that on the ocean here on the sport boats too. But when you get a network of people that you work with, that you trust, and you're honest with, that's always the best policy, folks. It's always the best policy. And we all learn from that, And like I said, I was blessed being around some great, great fishermen, the Corkies, the Takas, the Sansom brothers, John Lloyd. I mean, some of the very best. Ray Montero, we talk a lot. Guys in San Diego. And my friends, my nucleus of friends that I fish with all the time. I credit them with my success, because to me it was a shared deal. Because if it weren't for their information, I couldn't have done what we did. So it's not me, it's about what we all did collectively. So we're just blessed.
Steve Bermuda says, sorry for your loss, Danny, of a great man. The mourning never ends. I lost my dad a year and a half ago, but heaven is a wonderful place. Yellowtail Wasabi says, can you share a picture of your father, Danny?
I sure can.
I'll hold it up to if you can find one. And then Steve.
What do I do with my phone? So did I lay my phone
do I
down
see it
somewhere?
over here? You see it anywhere, Michael?
No.
Isn't that amazing?
You don't have it on you?
I did.
Go out there and look around, Michael. Hold on, folks. We'll find it. In the meantime, I'll read you another one. Steve Bermuda says,
Okay.
a military funeral service is the most tear-jerking, heartwarming, patriotic experience. Do you know?
Hi.
Hey, hold on one second. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
No, you guys are already going.
Yeah. Oh, we're going.
I was just going to tell
Come on, you
Oh,
want to go?
thank you,
Come
Janelle.
on in and give him a
Thank
hug.
you. No, I
Come on in,
appreciate that.
Janelle. Janelle works here at 22nd Street Landing. She's a lovely person. I'm going to tell you a little
Oh, they
story
all are.
about.
They're so.
I'm going to tell you a
so
story
great.
about her in a second, also. But she wants to come in and.
Oh, Janelle, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So sorry. You doing okay?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. You know, I just look at the big
Thank you,
picture. and
Janelle.
Pop's in a better place right now. You know, and he lived a great life. He was 95. You know, pushing 96. Survived the, injuries in the Korean War. And, you know, he dedicated his life to his kids and to the community, and was very selfless. So we've been blessed. We've been so blessed by having him around. Yeah, 95.
Wow.
Going on 96 in a few months, but yeah.
What a nice one.
Oh yeah. He was awesome. Yeah. But thank you. Appreciate that. And we appreciate all the folks out there. Same thing, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate that.
Janelle. Love you too. So the other day, just tell you a story about Janelle. What a lovely person she
Yeah.
is. Because her and Tony, they stay here late for our show all the time.
Yeah.
But so there was a homeless person out here that was really in bad shape. And she went up to the person and she said, "Hey, you could use a bath, and you really." And so she came in here. She had permit, she had a full permit. She came in here, and you know how much clothing and stuff we have here for Mexico.
Yeah.
She outfitted this
Oh,
person.
my
She
God.
took the time to help her. She took the time to get her back on her feet, cleaned her up, got her dressed with all this nice clothing that people have donated. That's the kind of person she is.
That's absolute. That's awesome. That is absolutely.
That's why she wanted to come here and give you a hug, because that's the kind of person
and
she
that,
is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're just blessed being around people like that.
Did we find Danny's
Right.
phone, by the way?
No.
What the heck did you do with your phone? Do I have it?
I don't know. I thought I had
Hold
it
on.
around. Yeah.
Hold on, everybody. We're looking.
Yeah. I
Your
just
dad
had it.
or your grandpa
I
stole
think I
it.
was showing. Wasn't I showing did I show the picture of?
No, you were going to, but I told you I'd already seen it.
So
But I
it's-
think you
it's
were
gotta
showing
be
it to
in-
Bob.
It's got to be in here somewhere. Yeah. Look at
Hey,
it.
there it is.
Oh, on the
Down
ground.
there on the floor.
Ah,
yeah.
perfect.
I found it. Yeah.
Good job, Phil.
Doggone
Good
it.
job. We'll go to that.
It had to be somewhere down there, right?
It's absolutely unbelievable.
While you're looking for
and-
that photo, Fish, Fish from Worm King?
Yeah.
He says, "What's
Is
up,
Fish in
Danny
there?
and Phil? I love the legendary stories. We love you, Fish." Patrick Harnjack from up there in Montana says, "Danny, you're wearing a jacket. Is it cold down there?" It's a little cold for us babies here.
Here, Phil. Here's a picture with
Yeah, exactly.
the grandkids
Let me see if I can show you.
and great
When was that?
grandkids. Yes, sir. The
Oh,
day
the day
that
that-
was hours before he passed. But he
Wow.
could stand them. You could see
Is
him
that in the
standing
frame?
around.
No. A little bit, bring it a little closer. Right there.
Is that in there?
Yep.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's my kids, their husbands.
This is when your father made that
great-grandkids.
miraculous comeback?
Yes. I mean, he came out, he pulled the tubes off, whatever, walked out, started eating.
What the
And
heck?
I mean, you talk about if that psychologically doesn't pump you up when you see all your kids and your great grandkids and everything else.
Yeah.
And he was great. And then the next morning he went to go see my mom. Doesn't get any better.
No.
It really doesn't.
That's good. And Michael Limon is now our new director here. He's
Hey,
doing a great job.
great
let me
job,
tell you.
Michael.
Good job. Is it cold? Do you feel like it's cold? It's a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. That's that time of year. Come on. You know what's funny? I just thought about the date. And the day I got my 1904 was January 8th, so it was very close.
Yeah.
This time of year is when I would generally be on casitas, guest steak, pounding away, throwing the dads. Yeah.
Dan Smith says,
Unbelievable.
call Danny's phone. And then he says, good job, Phil, finding Danny's phone. If you can just find us some damn albacore. No
Yeah,
kidding,
I know,
Dan.
no kidding.
I'm looking for them, man. I'm all over the place looking for those things. I found the phone. I can find the albacore.
Mother Nature's cycle, folks.
Yeah, Patrick Harnjack is in Montana. He says, you little babies are cold. It's 40 below wind chill here tonight with snow blowing sideways. It's stupid cold.
Yeah.
Hey,
You guys
Patrick.
are awful tough.
Yeah, hey, Patrick. I mean, I don't know if you realize it's like 64 degrees here, dude. We're cold. It's freezing here. It's 64 degrees. So don't give us this minus 40
my
degrees
God.
stuff. And Isaac says, great photo. Sarah says, that was a wonderful photo with your dad. That's something that you'll cherish that
Oh,
forever.
absolutely, absolutely.
And plus the story around it all.
Yeah, yep, yep. And you know what? What's odd, folks, is the family becomes so important. Many years ago when I was running boats and everything, and I was chasing those bass. Like I said, when those bass bit, I was up there 3 to 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days. If the bite was really on. So I was a nut. But
You
to
were a nut?
well, yeah, still am. Yeah, but but
I mean, isn't that what you and I have in common?
That's what it takes. That's what it takes, and I'll show you that. This was what's today?
Patrick Hornjack, by the way, says he'll take the 64 degrees. Hey, that's only a 100-degree difference, isn't it? Right? You get down
Yeah.
to 0 and then go down
Well,
minus
we're
40.
good.
That's like a 100-degree difference.
This is so tough, but there you go, Phil. You're gonna have to try and do another photo.
All right, we
again
can
here.
do it with Michael helping me out. Michael's our director. Chico sends his deepest condolences to you, Danny. And Patrick Hornjack says, it's so cold here, the snowblower wouldn't even start.
Oh, let's see if you can do
And
that.
so, man, that sounds cold. Really cold.
That's kind of hard.
I'm in
That's
a
hard. We may
t-shirt.
have to do it.
That's you, right?
That was January 8th, 1989. So that's what I used to do, folks, back in those days.
Is that good?
Right there.
What is that exactly? Describe that, Danny.
There was a largemouth. That was the day that Talk and I were the only two bass boats on Cascade.
Oh, and what does fish weigh?
1904. That's still a line class world record. IGFA line class record for 20-pound class. Because the 10-pound line, the XT I used, broke at 17 pounds. So that bumps you up in the 20-pound class. So there's just different things that, you'll see that, in chasing these things, it took a lot of dedication, a lot of time. But, I was happy after that. And after that, I decided, okay, I can get married now. Thank you, Gail. She bought me that jacket too.
Oh,
We
sure.
had ultra cold weather. Yeah, we had. That was the other thing is you learn how to have all the technical equipment from clothing to you name it. But in playing with the ultimate tackle, that's something that's always driven me and the guys that we're around with the nucleus of guys that we fish. And that's why we're blessed here with all the fishermen that we've dealt with, our friends. We shared information. I mean, if it weren't for, like I say, bringing Corky Yokoi back into that, when you're fishing live crawdads, the sensitivity has a lot to do with it. And although Fenwick took care of me with the first HMGs, the first G Loomis rods, the graphite scrim rods, by far the best. And that's, we started gravitating. We just fished the very best tackle that was available. And we pushed the tackle industry on a lot of areas to drive that. And that's why you have your Russ Eisers developing Spectra. You have the graphite guys. You have the real people. Newell's. I mean, my God, if it weren't for the Newell spool, people, you guys don't remember back, most of you young guys, but you had a choice between a plastic spool that imploded and a metal spool that you couldn't fly line a bait with. So you basically had nothing, But when, you got Carl Newell bringing out the first aluminum spools and then later the reels. And I remember Russ Eiser bringing my first set. And a lot of us boats had a numbered set where they stamped our number on the reels. And, we did the smoke testing. But, that aluminum spool, and that changed the game. All that done here, folks. So you guys here, yourself a pat in the back. But we drive that, and that's why it drives me a little crazy I'll watch these bass shows and I watch these guys that don't even fish correctly. They're sitting there fighting a fish up here and they got 1/10 the pressure of the rod up there. Are you kidding me? When you're fishing the rail, where do you put it? Down here. Michael, you know that. You're going to fish more efficiently just, because of your height, like mine. The same way. When you're short, it's actually to your advantage. So, just keep that in mind. But that's where we credit our fishermen here.
I said to you earlier tonight, Danny, that when you get snagged on the bottom and you want to break yourself off, you don't put a bend in the rod ever. If you want to pull really
There you go.
hard,
Perfect
what do?
example.
You point it,
the rod.
right? That's how you
That's where
pull
you
the
get the
hardest.
maximum pressure out of it.
Yeah, and intuitively, I guess we should have known that a long time ago, but it
Watch
took
some-
somebody like you to say,
Watch
hey,
some of these bass shows doing this. You have no control of the fish here either, and with us, we have a different thing because we do something called short stroking. Excuse me. And if you ever notice, you watch around the country and you're watching these shows, they're not fishing with that methodology. But if you fish with Don and Danny Sansom and Taka and Corky and all the Butch Brown, you know, you guys got to know how to fish not only saltwater but we fish the bass like we do the saltwater. So you're much more effective by your lifting angles and just fishing technique. So
Dan Smith has a question for you. He says, Danny, as far as line class, do you send in a piece and they test it, then round up the numbers as to where it breaks? And that is the class. Can you share a little bit about how they
yeah,
come up with
what
line
we
class?
did was you do have to send a section of the line, and over time, back in those days, it was before Spectra, and I found that the Trilene XT had the least amount of stretch. It was more of an opaque line. Now the diameter of the 10-pound XT broke when they put it on a machine. It broke at 17, so that's why it got bumped up in the 20-pound class. But it was thin. But I also camouflaged that line, and thanks to Russ Eisen and guys like that, before we even did that, I'm sure most of the 90% of the guys or more don't put it on machines and test the strength on it with certain knots. And I was using the Joe Miller knot, which I got right out of, he was playing in the Cherokee on that goof off trip we did. And oh, there you go.
Right, I hope that's in there. Where's my Michael Limon when I need him?
So you know
yeah,
what?
there it is.
Folks, credit goes to all the fishermen, the great fishermen that we've been blessed around, and we've taken their innovations and implemented it. And I still use that knot. I used it on those tuna with the light line on our trip
Freedom
on the
trip?
Freedom trip. So, these all come from fishermen that are, in my estimation, the best in the world. I'm not braggadocious about our guys, but if you really look at our fishermen, I'm so proud of all of them because the innovation never stops. From Russ Iser with Spectra to graphite rods, to the reels that we tweak, the first aluminum spools. Imagine still fishing a plastic spool or a heavy metal spool, as opposed to what we have now. That all
Amazing,
came out of
right?
Southern Cal. Yeah.
People don't realize that.
No,
Yeah,
it's our people, and and it's you guys too, because staying in touch with the information network and staying on top of your game and tweaking and trying different things. These are why all you that come in and tune in and listen to, and if you could pick up one little thing that's going to help your fishing every time you listen, guess what? You're going to be a killer. You're going to be a fish killer by the time you're done. Because you want to be, I call it a sponge, where you soak up that information, and you could filter it. Some stuff you may not want to implement and use, but really the vast amount of information, if you can filter that, and Phil, we just went through it with lifting angles. I watch these guys on TV up here. So, well, that's really great when you got 1/10 of the pressure as opposed to down here. Do you want to lose the fish? Do you want the fish to jump and throw the hook? Or do you want to put the fish on the boat? Your stroking technique, you know. There's so much more that we learn from being around great fishermen. And it's not me, but it's the ability that I have to watch and see what people are doing. And I process that even when I was fishing with 30 great captains on the boat. And you're picking things up and you got to process that. You got to stick it up in here, and it's like a computer. What am I doing wrong? And let me tell you, I didn't start out hooking them right away. and I had to analyze what I was doing wrong. But it took that process to finally dial everything in, you know. And so, it's a continual learning curve that you'll go through all your life. And that's what a good fisherman has, in his arsenal, is that processing that will constantly keep going. It's not set in stone. This is how they bite. This is how you catch them. It doesn't work that way. You have to adjust. I mean, I could tell you, even like with I went with a bunch of guys that were excellent trout guys. We went to a private lake. What do they call that? Lake LA, or the one up in Palmdale? The
Um,
private lake.
oh yeah. What is
Right.
that?
So
Arsenal?
No, it's a
no,
private
no,
lake.
it's up
It
there. But fin and feather.
fin and feather.
Okay.
Right there you go. Fin and feather.
So I'm there with a bunch of trout guys. They're fishing more trout than I do these days, and they're sharp, right? But they're all fishing mini jigs. They're fishing light line, super light line, tricked out hooks, this and that. And, we're not doing anything. So, you know, just from trout fishing from the time I was 4 years old, I'm going, well, okay, instead of using the mini jigs, I'm going to use a power bait. I'm going to stoop to using a power bait. Okay, so I change over, use a power bait. Well, I had two fish before those guys were able to retie and change. So, it's, Michael, you probably get that. It's watching. It's watching, and you're amongst a bunch of great fishermen. But it's the guy that takes the chance, and you've had the experience that you can pull from, draw it back, and you go, okay, let's try this. But it's the guy that's trying. To sit there and let it sit the whole time and not do anything without working it or anything, you're not doing your job. You know, it's figuring it out. A lot of times, even that power bait, I'll move it a little bit and set it, and all of a sudden, that little bit of movement will attract them, and they'll come after it. So there's all kinds of things you learn, but that's what fishing's all about.
Patrick Hornjack says, imagine trying to fight a 100-pound bluefin on a pen squitter with a metal spool and 25-pound test. Good luck,
Yeah,
right?
good luck, and good on a metal spool. Good luck trying to cast something, with the chovy or whatever. It's going to be awful tough. We were blessed being with the innovative anglers and the people down here in Southern Cal, folks.
Our buddy Dan Smith, who's always making fun of my albacore predictions. I'm going to come and I'm going to get you, Dan. He says, Danny, I watched that trip with you and Gary Loomis and Danny. I think he's talking about Dan Hernandez, right?
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
Mustang.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You were bringing in a fish, rod pointed at the fish, no wasted movement, pure power, technique.
Well, and with the graphite, there was a straight. Those were some of the very first straight graphite. And so you don't want to. It doesn't have the elongation without the fiberglass mix, the blend in it. So, I was not only taking the max out of it, but I didn't want to bring it up to a point where you bring it up to an area high enough where you can shear it. So if you keep it down low, it's recoiling. You're using a short stroke, using a higher speed ratio a lot of times. It's complementing everything. I mean, it's got to be your hook, your line, your knot. That's key. Your hook, your knot, your line. Now fluorocarbon before the line. There's so many more different things that you have to process the whole time to really dial it in. So
I think Michael has another question
Mike,
for you.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Michael.
Hey Danny, what do you think about using non-barbed hooks for freshwater? What do you think about that?
I think it's great if you're not interested in keeping the fish, because it doesn't hurt them, and you can just shake them off. Like when I fly fish, generally that's what we do. We usually pinch the barbs down, because I'm not interested in killing a trout to eat, and it's not one of my fish that I'd rather eat. So I'd rather just whack them. And it's faster to get back in the water and get another one too. The other thing is, you have to use a little more skill, because if you're stripping line, you can't let it go slack. So you're going to have to be on top of that the whole time. You got to keep that bend in the rod, And that's something that I watch, and I'll watch fly fishing shows, and the same thing. I watch these guys and I go, well, if they learned how to fish, they'd be pretty dangerous, But they'll look at us and go, well, we're bait guys. Well, no, we're fishermen. We're just implementing different methodologies across the board. you know. And I see that too often. Like I said, with these bass guys, I watch them and I watch their physical techniques, and with a lot of them, it's horrible. And yet they're getting paid the big money, you know. I I guess I wish I could have been back at that time and doing it. I've got that competitive part of me that wants to just go out there and kick butt, you know, and I like doing that. But it's implementing different methodologies and things and technologies, using that the maximum, the latest and greatest. And that's where it's at for all of us fishermen that want to be in that top 10. 10% of the guys generally do catch 90% of the fish, folks, you know. So keep that in mind. It's not luck. It's doing your due diligence.
Did you learn that from your dad by any chance? Like doing your
I
due
got a lot
diligence
of
and the
tech.
patience and the dedication? Are those things that your father passed on to you?
Yeah, he was a member of the technical staff at Hughes Aircraft, so everything was very technical. Like I said, I mean, blessed to have the filter screen on my sonar that came off an F-14. I mean, there were things that were definitely
That's
state of the art,
funny.
but having the mindset, my dad, he was a big innovator, but he did. Here's a great one. Honda came out with he went to a second childhood, when I was like in high school and stuff.
What do you
so
mean by that?
second child, he decided he wanted to ride motorcycles.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, there you go.
Honda comes out with these 4-cylinder 750s, the state of the art. It was at the time, they're fast, So he would to get
And
away
he's
with
how
that-
old about now?
Oh, back then he was probably
50, 60?
60s,
Yeah.
50s, 60s. Yeah, no, it had to be younger than that because I was 18. So yeah, he was probably 40 in his 40s, 50s, but he was going through like a second child.
Yeah, right
To
on.
get away with it, he bought my mom a matching helmet, and they would go off
Oh,
on Sunday,
nice.
drive off, go have a Sunday brunch, and drive.
That's great.
So anyway, one day he couldn't get this thing started. So my dad, being the engineer and designer that he was, he starts tearing apart this Honda 750. And to my knowledge, I don't even know there was a book for this thing yet, right? So he can't get it started. So he tears this 750 engine down, tears it all down, puts it all back together, still can't get it going. He was out of gas. He was out of gas. We never lived that down, but we laughed so hard. But in doing so, my dad designed to synchronize the all 4 carburetors. He designed a tune-up kit. That's how his mind worked. So it was a huge plus in doing that. But that's the way he was.
Tangle Diver says CB 750 is a muscle bike.
Oh, it was. I used to sneak it. I went, Dad, you're gone now, but I used to sneak it out every now and then.
Oh, he didn't know about that till right now?
Oh no, he would kill me.
He's listening right now.
Sorry, Pop.
Hey, a lot of people, Michael Limon is asking these. Wait a minute, a homeless guy broke. Oh, no, it's your grandpa. A lot of people have heard you asking questions and they know who you are, but why don't you go stand next to Danny so you can make an appearance on this show?
Absolutely.
Give him a hug there, Michael. A little closer. That's it. Hit him
Don't
over
worry
the head
about
with
it.
the rods.
Don't worry about it. They're warranted. Those
Don't
are
worry
the
about it,
old ones.
Michael. Look over here at the camera so we can see you.
There
And
you
thank
go.
you for participating tonight.
Absolutely.
Actually,
this is where it's at. This is where it's at.
You know what? Grandpa asked me to do that so he could get Michael's seat. You can see he got his seat.
Good move.
Thank you, Michael. If you have any more questions, pop them out here, okay? Don't go anywhere. Unless you're going to go get one of my quesadillas again. Might be one more.
Yeah. So, and this is what it's all about to
Yeah.
me now,
Well,
to
you're
pay back
playing a
to
big
the
part,
kids and stuff.
right? Do you feel like Danny's played a part in Mike? Yeah.
Oh, he'll be running a boat one day,
Greg, Danny, you,
Well, let's not give the elf any credit.
Halibut Man.
Yeah, halibut man. A lot of people have taken. There's a lot of. You've said it before, and I feel blessed. We got a lot of great people floating around this Friedman Adventures.
Oh yeah, we do. They all help out good. Whenever Michael needs something, they all want to help him out and donate stuff for him and everything. So everything's good. You got good people, Phil. Good following.
Absolutely.
With this guy right here, Danny Kadota, they don't
Wait.
make them any better.
You know something? I was told this too. And Pop we were all blessed being around I reiterated that with the fishermen. I don't credit myself. I was around a lot of great guys and being able to pick their minds. But You can't soar with the eagles if you're hanging around with turkeys, okay? And there's the turkeys out there too, you know. But the eagles, they all soar together. They share, you know. They'll help protect each other. I mean, it's and you're on that cutting edge,
Oh yeah.
you know. And that's, to me, that's what it's always been in fishing. Yeah.
The thing about Michael is the crew and the captain on the Monte Carlo.
So we're talking about Walt, and we're talking about Brian Burrell and Stephen Conradi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever they tell him, hey, they help him out a lot. They give him good advice, and he does it. That's why he caught all the fish the last time. we were out
Hello,
there.
you're talking to guys that are there every
caught
day.
10. He caught 10 sand bass. Probably lost 4 or 5 in the rocks, but they told him what to do,
And he listened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he did get another quesadilla.
There you go.
Come out here and show everybody my homemade quesadilla. I think it's worth showing everybody, don't you, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Michael. Or yes, Michael Limon with the Phil Friedman quesadilla. Don't get it too close to Danny. He might take a bite of that. Let's see you take a bite on camera now.
All right, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah,
Mike.
we want to see. Lean over this way. You got to get over. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, like a shark.
Beautiful.
Ah, I love
Beautiful.
it.
Dun, 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 dun,
Dan
dun,
Smith says, hello, Michael. Good fisherman, that kid. And Isaac says, hey, Michael, Ethan and Owen say hello. And he says hello to Dan also. Danny, I'm sure your dad knows you took his bike. Dads know everything.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, either he had the mileage or something. He was pretty sharp. He couldn't pull too much over on him.
Patrick.
Patrick Harnjack says, Danny, why is it that a new sport boat hasn't come around lately? Seems like all these boats just keep getting worked on. They're expensive
Well, you know,
to
I'll
build,
tell you,
right?
expensive, number one, folks. And two, our state is not very friendly with the way they approach businesses here, in particular our industry. you
It's
know.
getting worse.
It's getting worse, and I had fallings out with our fishing game and a lot of these guys over time because just a lot of stuff they implemented as far as regulations and everything just had no sense, you know. And I was around stuff over the years. For instance, very close by here, they had this big concrete overpass. They called it a viaduct, and when they demolished that, there's tons and tons of concrete. And a little old man captain here named Russ Iser said, why don't you guys, state of California, take it on a barge and make a reef? Well, guess what? They didn't do it. They know too much. So Russ funded it, put it on a barge, got right Iser's Reef out here now. It's its own ecosystem now. Squid spawn on it, and there's enough rubble and probably steel and everything else, plus the concrete keeps people from poaching it because there's enough, you know, enough things that will protect it. But now it's got its own ecosystem. Squid spawn on everything else. Way ahead of its time. But do you think Fish and Game listened back then? No, they didn't. You know, and we have had that problem. They did that. Fish and Game has messed up all of our California lakes. Okay? And here's another one you're not going to hear. I was on the advisory board for the state of California with a lot of guys in the industry. And it had to do with when the quagga mussels first started coming into California. And we started implementing ways, you know, to knock that down. And one of the things that we had talked about in our meeting, Pat Marley, Dave Myers from Fenwick, we had a lot of guys in the industry. We talked, as fishermen, we came up with plans where you could have these dipped ramps, filled them with a solution of bleach and different things to kill these mussels, right? So you could pour it through your live wells, you know, flush them out, and it'll kill it. You drive home and you come back the next day. Well, now you can't even fish back-to-back days unless you leave the boat in the water or something else, and you can't go to another lake. And oftentimes I would, if they weren't biting a castaic, I'd shoot up the road to Casitas, you know. I think I told that story about Danny Sansom.
Yeah.
You know, and so you can't even do that, you know. So I look at guys like Butch Brown, who's got 4 bass boats at different lakes so he could fish different lakes. Now, that's dedication. That's dedication. I'm not willing to do that because our state is too stupid. Did I say stupid? Yeah, I meant stupid. And to have recognized that and implemented that long ago where it would have resolved that quagga mussel deal. But, you know, when you have 18-year-old and 20-year-old biologists making decisions for a state, that's pretty much what you get. No, zero experience on the water, zero experience, you know, with the actual product as far as on running boats, doing this or that, and just sitting there and writing their experience with a pen on a piece of paper for a thesis for UC Santa Barbara or whatever it might be, which UC Santa Barbara was a big part of it. Russ Iser and I went up there. We had arguments with a lot of stuff with young biologists. And that's a lot of the problem that we face here in California. So California took a world-class bass fishery and messed it up. That took a lot. Took a lot of stupidity, but they were able to muster up all the stupidity they needed to do that. So thank you, California, for your stupidity, fishing game, and the rest of you knuckleheads.
All
Am
right.
I being a little tough on them?
A little bit. Yeah, you're being honest, right?
Good. I am being honest.
You're
I'm sorry,
talking.
folks.
You're telling
I'm speaking the
exactly
truth.
how you
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Daniel says hello. Patrick Harnjack says, Danny, if you could design a sport boat today, what is one feature you would love to have? Is there something, or maybe it's something that already exists?
Wow,
or-
for long range or for local fishing?
No, you could
Because
take
it would
both
probably
if you
be
want.
different, because if you're fishing locally, you're looking at if you're fishing Catalina, Clemente, and stuff like that. It was funny because Russ Iser, even though he had his own boats, would charter. I had the blessing of having him. He would charter my boat, and he would be on it, which was even better because he would come up to the wheelhouse and tell me about different spots. And he was so right on with everything. He says, "Oh, you're going to get about 15 legal calicos. You might get one or two halibut, and this, and this." And Russ fished with less people, so he had it dialed in. I mean, he was smart all the way around. But he was very funny. He was big on Catalina. He says you don't ever need to go to Catalina, past Catalina. You get a day done here. But when you have a smaller boat, carry less passengers, you can do that. So oftentimes I would take off, and once we got our squid, we'd go straight to Clemente. And I can remember one stopper in the back in the cove around Pyramid and China Point, done on the calicos at probably about 6:30 in the morning. We run around the front, we whack 51 tails, and now we're on our way home early. As we're passing Catalina, Russ comes up in the wheelhouse. He says, you really didn't have to come past this island. I go, get the heck out of it. I used the word that was similar. Out of here, Russ. But he was so funny, and he was like a sea daddy, like talking some of the rest of the mentors that were just phenomenal, But we had such good times,
Isaac says, I love it, Danny. Tell the truth. You're telling the truth. Jeremy sends his condolences to you, Danny.
Thank
and
you.
Says
Thank
he's
you.
very
Appreciate
sorry. He says, Phil must be in possession of a crystal ball. Not sure where he keeps it, but he called the rain today and nobody else did. Did I really, Jeremy? I didn't even remember that. But I'll take it. If I can only transfer that to my albacore predictions.
I was going to say the same
I'd
thing.
be good.
Well, it wasn't completely wrong. We had a couple.
We had a couple, right?
So,
Yeah.
I'm claiming I was okay,
Patrick Harnjack says he was the one who asked you what you would design a boat. Now I see what he's talking about. He says, I was watching a YouTube video of the American Patriot, an overnight type boat out of Florida. It had a soft serve ice cream machine on it. I feel like that's a feature the SoCal boats make. Hey, what's wrong with that, right?
That could be it.
Michael Limone's all about that, too.
They got everything but, yeah, that's a neat deal.
I wonder, do any of the long range boats have that?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, me either.
not
They have
that
the
I know of.
fountains, though. You can go, Diet Coke and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and I mean, who knows? I don't know the inner workings of that, how often you have to change out.
Yeah, right.
Whether it needs filters, this, that. I don't know, But, all I know is, the service and the food on long range boats now. I mean, you're in a fine restaurant.
You really are.
Nothing simple about any of this stuff anymore. And my hat's off to them. They really have taken and escalated everything there. I mean, we thought we were doing good with steaks and baked potatoes and stuff like that. But boy, they've taken it to a different level. Yeah.
Jeremy says soft serve for those who are lactose intolerant.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I look at my cabin mate and friends on the boat, and that's half the fun on the boats. A lot of times is having having a little touch of just a touch of gas, because you walk upwind from them, and you lace one, and you can only do that with your best fishing buddies. But that's and my wife says, "You guys are a bunch of kids." I go, "Yeah, pretty much."
Patrick Hornjack says, think about it. Fresh ice cream cones, root beer floats all day long. And Isaac says, hey, it's going to be like McDonald's. You know how they're always cleaning that ice cream machine?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's always a problem with
Yeah.
that at McDonald's, right? Yeah,
That's it.
no, sorry, the machine's screwed up. So maybe they don't want to get into that. How about like, how important on a sport boat is bait capacity, like having big capacity?
That's one of the blessings on fishing the bigger boats too. So they have that capacity, and guys, it has to do with the curing of the bait, how they treat the bait.
So it doesn't
the
roll on you?
handling. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
It
roll
has
means
everything to do
die,
with handling,
everybody.
and we had a blessing too in that in the fall a lot of times we did commercial fishing where we had to make our own bait and everything else, and so you learn how to treat it and take care of it. You know how to cure it out, because it does make a big difference. I mean, you got good fishermen, you got cured chovies in an albacore bite or a bluefin bite, you will definitely have much more success. And that's going to come out of the operations that have to do their due diligence with their bait. They'll feed it, they'll cure it out, constantly cleaning the tanks. So that does have a lot to do with it. But it takes effort and takes work, folks.
Hit that like button, everybody. We appreciate all your great support. Jeremy, hey, nice barred perch there, Jeremy, by the way. We had you on the morning briefing this morning. Hey, I've had many years of sea time with plenty of close friends, so I know how that goes. He's talking about, yeah,
The flagellants,
he was in the Navy, so yeah, I'm sure those guys
that
are.
flagellant fish. Yeah.
You Navy guys don't screw around like that, do you, Jeremy? You're very proper all the time, I'm sure. Oh my God, that's funny.
That's part of fishing that is just the fun part of the camaraderie.
Boys will be boys,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
By the way, the state of California is trying, they have a bill up to ban tackle football for kids 12 years and under. They're trying to ban tackle football. I just thought I'd throw that out there in case you want to make a comment, Danny.
I played old time football, Phil. And I think that's I think that's a better route to go.
Yeah, I mean, boys
Yeah.
are naturally aggressive. I know we're not supposed to say this, like boys are different, but boys are naturally aggressive and they need some kind of outlet that's going to allow that aggressiveness to come out in a healthy way. Yes, there's going to be some concussions. Yes, there's going to be some injuries. But I mean, you might as well stop walking out of the house or going on the freeway or driving anywhere if you're going to run your life that way.
I got to tell you something. I mean, I every sport that I took, and in football, how tall I am, but to play you know, at my height, I in in my senior year, I was playing next to guys that were all 6'3", 6'4". So it's not so much the size; it's your heart too.
Yeah.
And it's your desire to do that, and that's going to carry you with whether you're fishing, anything you're doing. It has to have your desire. Your heart's going to be into it. But if you don't push it to the limits, you'll never know what abilities you actually have and how far you can go. You know, and so yeah, they want to make everything fair and easy, but you know what? That doesn't make you can't get excellent. You know, we grew up being around people that strove for excellence in their sports and everything that they did, whether it was work or anything. If I did something, I did a particular job or something. I was taught, thanks to my dad, do it right. Take your time, do it right, and do it once, but do it right. And we just don't see that anymore. And I don't see that. Can you see a U.S. military where we go out there half cocked instead of full on ready, And
Yeah,
that's what
it's scary,
scares me.
right?
That scares you.
Yeah.
No, you wanna be dialed in, and that's I I take my fishing. I take everything very serious like that. But I think it has to be.
And it's not that you play tackle football or you play whatever, you can't be a nice, decent human being. Well, I mean, there's that switch that flips when you play a sport like that. And you flip that switch, and man, now it's all freaking, I'm going to clean that guy's clock. I played a lot of hockey, and, I was like all about, running somebody as hard as I
Yeah.
could and
Boarding
looking them
them.
straight in the eye. If they looked at you cross-eyed, I was ready to. But when the game was over, the light switch went off, and then you could be a nice guy, and but you need that outlet.
Yeah, you leave it on the ice, you leave it on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy said he saw that on Twitter this morning. Crazy. Patrick Harnjack says, "Hey, there's another bill in Los Angeles trying to outlaw all rodeo events. No more rodeo."
Yeah, you're going to be on a mechanical horse, but it's going to have all foam around it and everything, so you can't get, you fall off, it bucks you off. You know what? They're everything's getting dumbed down, and I
Boys are becoming
Where are you gonna get-
feminized in a way,
oh,
right?
God, yeah, please.
Or am I right?
Yeah, yeah,
We're starting to stray off into areas that
Yeah.
maybe, but
yeah,
like my son Patrick, I went to his rugby game when he played Stanford and he broke his leg,
Yeah.
and he was over on the sideline, and I walked over to him at the end of the game and I go, "Hey, did you want to go to ER or did you want to go to lunch first?" And he looked at me and says, "Let's go to lunch." So we went to lunch. He put his leg up with ice on it. We had lunch, and his girlfriend was there, and she said, I said, "Can you handle the ER thing? I really got to get back to LA." He was up in San Jose. And she goes, "Yeah, I got it." And I go, "Okay, hey, Patrick, good game, man. Way to go. Kick butt, buddy."
I did something. My brother's team, when they moved out to Orange County, I was down at UC San Diego. I drove up. He was in a playoff game, and he was a starting middle linebacker at Kennedy High School out there in La Palma, right? So we're in the stands. I'm with Dad and the family. We're all out there, and he gets. I didn't see it, but he got clipped, and they blew out his knee, and he's laying on the ground, and I stand up. I go, "Get up, you sissy!" Here comes a stretcher. They're carrying him out. They had to go for surgery.
That's
And I'm
funny.
looking, my dad's just looking at me. I go, "Oh, sorry." Sorry.
Hey, Isaac wants to know, can you share another good story about you and your father? Is there anything that comes to mind?
There's so many.
I know.
There's so many.
It's such a hard
You know,
question.
But I mean, here's a guy that would come home in his suit after work, and when I was pitching, he would sit there and catch. We had an actual plate that we had, and he would practice with it. But he did that with all of us. But
Yeah, I did the same thing with my dad, played catch. And
Yeah.
I used to make them too. When I saw the Three Stooges for the first time, I thought I died and gone to heaven. I thought this was the greatest crap I've ever seen in my life. It used to be on KDOC at 5:30, and my dad would come home, and he's beat, man. He's been working all day long, and he's tired. I go, "Dad, please, will you watch the Three Stooges?" And, "Come on, Dad." And I could see, he's like, "Oh, my God." So he'd sit there, and I could see he didn't want to do it. And then all of a sudden, he's belly laughing, next to me. So I know the thing our fathers did for us,
Oh,
right? And
yeah.
this guy does for Michael Limon,
Oh,
his
absolutely,
grandpa here.
absolutely. And that I think we're seeing a lot of that going away with the generations now, and it's nice that you step in. And I was very close to my grandparents because my dad, having the two other brothers and a sister, was very nice for me to get farmed off the grandpa and grandma who fished every weekend. It was perfect, and not that he didn't like it, but he had three other kids too, and so he'd split the time, but he coached for all of us and stuff. The only one that didn't was my sister, So my mom took care of her. I think she did all her little campfire girls or whatever it was, Yeah.
Hey, hit that like button, everybody. Patrick Harnjack from Montana, where it is 40 below zero, says, "Did you get to take your dad fishing on the Mustang when you were running it, Danny?"
Oh yeah, yeah. He would come out. He would come out quite a bit, and it was neat having Pop out there, And he wasn't a hardcore fisherman. He liked to fish, but he wasn't a hardcore fisherman, But he would always help. He would, when we were building like the Cherokee Geisha, when we brought it back and we had to strip it, he was down. He had retired early. He retired out when he was 55, and I think that was the same year they bought it. He bought into H&M, and he was down there every day, sanding, painting, doing stuff. And the one thing, as an engineer, the one thing he saw off a boat that he didn't have to deal with being in aerospace was on a boat, it never ends. You finish standing, you finish doing this. Now you got to redo the decking or something, and you got to float it with resin and this and that. It never ends, And I think for him that part was frustrating because it's not finite, it's infinite. A boat just keeps on. What they said, there was that old saying, a boat is a hole in the water you keep pouring money into.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
pretty much true.
Yeah, that is
So
for sure.
you guys, when you go fishing, think about that. What the crew and the captains and the owners have to go through every year, so you can have a boat that's in great shape. It takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of work to give you something that's functioning really well.
Danny, Isaac wants to know of a lesson that you learned from your dad that you could pass on so he can pass it down to his kids. Honesty, hard work. What would be some of the things that come to mind?
I think it's all those things. All those things. Honesty with like with our culture. It was pretty much
Japanese culture?
yeah. It's pretty much here's the knife. You lie. Cut your
Harikari.
guts out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, that was the one
Face
thing.
face is an important thing,
and you don't.
I know it's
you
big in
don't-
China. I
you
know it's
don't-
big.
Yeah, and you don't dishonor your family.
Right.
That's one of the biggest things ever. So everything I did, I did full out. Whether it was play football and sports or anything, I gave it 100%. And I did that. I really did that to honor him too. Because of the time.
Traditions are important in Japanese culture, right?
There's a lot of etiquette.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you want to do, and things that you absolutely is a no. So, yeah, there's pretty clear lines drawn with etiquette and things like that. That you just don't go beyond that. There's a point, and you never veer past that.
Yeah.
It's right and wrong.
And you learn from your mother, your father, their grandparents.
Everybody, yeah.
The people that have been here before share their knowledge with you.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like I heard a definition of a liberal or a progressive as opposed to a conservative. I hope I don't get in any trouble, but a guy's walking along. There are two people, a conservative and a liberal guy, are walking along.
Yeah.
And they're in this huge field, and it's just beautiful, and they're walking along, and there's this big fence. And the liberal guy goes, tear that damn thing down right now. Let's just get rid of it, man. Let's tear it down. And the conservative guy goes, there might be some reason why that fence is there. Why don't we think about this before we tear it down? Who knows? Maybe bears or whatever. But, it seems like, knowledge from our ancestors, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
there's something to be.
I think, you correct me on this, but I think, like in Japan, our old heritage, the wisdom, the age and the wisdom from those people, it's precious. I mean, it's
100%.
It's more valued than anything, because it stood the test of time. It's been, and so there's traditions and there's certain honors and there's things that you do not violate and you don't cross lines over. These are the parameters, and that's it. You don't cross over and do this, And that's pretty much, we had hard lines drawn, and Dad was pretty strict. I mean, just the military background too. I mean, there were certain things, and of course, Dave and I were on the receiving end of a lot of the SWATs and everything.
Little corporal punishment there every once in a while.
A little bit there. Where Nancy and Steve, they didn't get touched because they did something. It was called listen. They listened, a little smarter than we were. Yeah.
Jeremy says BOAT, B-O-A-T. That acronym is break out another 1,000.
Boy, that's the truth.
Yeah. Isaac says, oh no, Phil, you'll get the show flagged, LOL. Hit the nail on the head. Keep those traditions alive. Yeah, I know YouTube's going to throw us off here for talking about tradition, right? Oh my God, you can't talk about that. You're right, Isaac.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those kind of lessons here's Isaac, and he wants, listen to this, Danny, it's kind of cool. He's asking, what lesson did your father teach you so he can teach his sons? That's a beautiful thing. That's a tribute to you and your father.
Well, the first thing is, is the truth. Is you never bend that. There's no gray area. That's black and white.
Can I
You
can
cross
I
that line, and yeah,
can I illustrate that right
sure,
now?
absolutely.
Dan, you need some deodorant, gosh darn it. Let me tell you. No, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you. Dan's sitting right next to me here. Just kidding.
That's
Anything
true.
else? Or we've been going, how long have we
Well,
been going here?
like with us too, and I think maybe some of it's Japanese, but you don't dishonor your family.
Yeah.
You don't want to ever,
What do you mean by that? So you
you
don't
don't want to do anything that
bring
would
shame?
discredit or bring shame to your family. Yeah. Everything when I did stuff, I did it with a lot of that in mind. You want
And
to.
that honestly makes you a better person, doesn't it?
I would think
Ultimately?
so. You keep, yeah, yeah, keeping your word. And there's a lot of different things that are entailed in that. But I was just blessed having that background. It was a combination of his military background and old school Japanese. Some of the concepts that uh, pretty much are solid, and the stakes are in the ground and they're not moving, so you don't veer around them, you don't bend them. It's clear cut, you know.
All right. Well, Danny, man, what a great show. I mean, we send you all our love and
I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all the kind thoughts and the love that you guys are giving me. It gets me. It really does. So thank you, folks, and we'll see you next week. Are we
well, we'll be
there a
back
holiday?
Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Good.
don't think so,
Okay.
right?
Good.
There's
Good.
Martin Luther
Oh,
King
okay.
Day is
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're
Monday.
good. We're good.
So a lot of people will be taking that off, but
Yeah.
yeah, it should be good. Jeremy says, I love my time living in Japan. Awesome people and culture.
You know, my wife's Italian, Jeremy, and we've made stops, and we've been in Japan where a school lets out, and it's just so neat that you can have 5 and 6 year old kids with their backpacks or little hats, and they're all walking home together, and you don't have to worry about them. What happened to that in our country when we grew up? You guys remember that growing up? We all did, right? What? Where did our country
Have to go
go?
home until the street
You
lights
know,
came on.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah. That's sad, but I'd like to see that, and you're so right about that. The honesty factor. You'll never get shortchanged or anything. You lose something, you know, it's there. Nobody's going to steal it. I mean, it's just, I wish we could have some of those concepts. You know, we need to bring some of that back. I think a lot of it may have been in our old U.S. culture, American culture, but it sure has changed. Things have changed a lot. Yeah.
Isaac says, great show. Blessings to you and your family and everyone. Great job. Tangle Diver says, God bless. Jeremy says, yep, safe and sound. Saw it every day there in Japan, riding the train too.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. I can remember my mom. One of the first times they went over there, she's at a train station, and they don't. And Jeremy can tell you. I mean, it's planned. Those doors open. You got so much time, and they shut, and they're off 200 miles an hour to the next station. Right. Our mom's buying souvenirs for all the grandkids, and my dad says, "You got to hurry up. You got to hurry up." Well, she's going through it, buying all these things, and all of a sudden, here comes the train. My dad says, "Let's go. We got to go." Jump in the train. She leaves her purse at the station, at that stand. She realizes that after they get on the train, the door shut, and they're on their way. And she says, "Frank, we got to go back." My dad says, "Forget it." They got to their destination, came all the way back to the not destination, got to the next stop, took the first stop back, and there it was sitting there. And it's
Try
hard.
that in
It's
LA.
hard to see, yeah, until you're there. But you're absolutely right. The safety and everything else is so different. But it's respect. It has to do with respect.
My son Patrick, when he was in China with me, I forget where we were, somewhere in southern China, I think. And we were walking and we got on this really slippery rocks down by the ocean. And he really hit hard. And so he slipped, and then we get up to the restaurant or whatever, and he goes, "Oh my God, my wallet." So he lost his wallet. So we went back, no wallet. It's gone. Figured it got washed out to sea or whatever. Like a week later, some Chinese girl sends him a message and says, I found your wallet, has this much cash in it. Where can I mail it?
Wow.
You
That's
know?
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean,
You know,
so
so God bless them. I mean, there's still places in the world that, we could. I mean, there was a time we were like this in this country too, at one point. But things have changed. It's it. I mean, now we have everything's got to have a low jack on it or something else.
I
Come on,
know.
that's unbelievable. Maybe one day we can get our country back. Let's just pray and hope that's the way it goes.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. Danny, God bless you. Thank you
All right,
so
thank
much.
you, people, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thanks for your thoughts. Our family appreciates that. We'll see you next week.
You want to jump out there and say goodbye to Danny? Okay, no. All right. Thank
Okay.
you, Danny.
All right. See you.